Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today is Thursday, February 12, 2026.
Oh.
If you're joining us today, I hope you're sitting down, or at least in a headspace where you're willing to have some pretty foundational furniture in your mind rearranged.
That's a good way to put it.
We have a stack of sources today that are honestly heavy. Feels like a bit of an understatement.
Heavy is a good starting point, I think. I think paradigm shifting might be more accurate.
Yeah.
We are dealing with material that takes a story everyone, and I mean everyone, thinks they know, probably one of the oldest stories in human history, and it completely dismantles it.
Right.
And then it rebuilds something that looks less like a fairy tale and more like a user manual for the human species.
We are talking about the story of Adam. Now, usually when we talk about Adam, we're picturing that classic scene, you know, the one.
Oh, yeah.
A garden, a guy, a girl, a snake, an apple, maybe a fig leaf or two. It's the image that has just dominated art, literature, and, Sunday school style instruction for centuries across multiple religions.
Right. It's the folklore version. It's the mythological version that we've all absorbed through cultural osmosis, really.
Exactly. But the sources we are covering today, specifically the lectures and writings of the rationalist thinker Allama Ghulam Ahmad Parvez, they argue that this folklore version isn't just a little bit off.
No.
He argues it is categorically wrong. He claims it misses the entire point of the Quranic text.
Parvez is. He's a fascinating figure because he approaches the text with what you might call a scientific sociological lens.
Yeah.
He isn't interested in the mystical or the supernatural for its own sake.
Right, he's very grounded.
Very. He is interested in the law, natural law, moral law, social law. His central thesis in these documents is that the story of Adam is not a historical anecdote about a single couple in a physical garden.
So it's not history.
It's an allegory. He says it's a scientific manifesto about human evolution, the biological transition from animal life to human life, and the sociological transition from living in caves to building civilization.
Which is a massive leap for most people. I mean, we are so used to hearing that science and religion are at war.
Constantly.
You have the evolutionists on one side and the creationists on the other, and it's this big battle. But here, Parvez seems to be saying, no, the text is describing evolution. You aren't reading the words correctly.
That is the core of it. He is arguing that the conflict isn't between the text and science. The conflict is between the text and the mythology people have draped over the text for centuries.
So our mission for this deep dive is to try and peel back that mythology.
That's the goal.
We're going to look at how he redefines Adam from a person to a species, how he redefines angels from, winged creatures to forces of physics.
And how he redefines Satan or Iblis from a demon with a pitchfork to a psychological state of despair.
But what I found most compelling in reading through this stack is that he doesn't just do this to be clever or controversial. He's doing it to construct a political theory.
Yes.
He turns faith into rational conviction and prayer into governance. It is wild stuff.
It absolutely is. It effectively moves the religion from the temple to the state house and from the prayer rug to the laboratory.
So let's strip this down to the studs. Before we get to the politics or the psychology, we have to look at the biology. And according to Parvez, it all starts with the name itself, Adam.
It does. And this is where we have to be careful not to just glaze over the linguistics, because the etymology is the key that unlocks the entire theory.
Okay.
In the traditional view, Adam is a proper noun. It's a name on a birth certificate. Hello, I am Adam.
Right. Like Steve or Dave or John. It's just a guy's name.
Exactly. But Parvez, he digs into the Arabic lexicon, the Lughat, and he points out that the word Adam is derived from a very specific root, DM. And this root relates to the concept of tamadun.
Tamadun. I've heard that word used in modern context to mean civilization or culture.
Exactly. But let's really unpack what civilization implies here, in his view.
Yeah.
It doesn't just mean a bunch of beings standing near each other.
Yeah.
A herd of buffalo stands near each other. A pack of wolves hunts together. But that's biological association. It's instinct.
Okay, so it's a group, but not a society.
Precisely. Tamadun implies living together in a social cooperative structure. It implies the ability to form a society based on concepts, on laws, and on mutual interests, not just instinct.
So it's the difference between a wolf pack and, say, New York City.
That's a perfect analogy. One is instinctual, the other is mutamadan civilized. So Parwez argues that when the Quran uses the word Adam, it isn't referring to a specific guy with that name.
It's a description.
It's using the term as a taxonomy. Adam literally means the social being or the civilized entity.
That is a huge distinction because if Adam is a title for the social being, then the story of Adam isn't a biography.
It can't be.
It's the history of our species.
It is the history of the emergence of our species. The source material argues that Adam represents the human race at the specific point in history where we transitioned from animalistic, individualistic existence to collective, social life.
The moment we stopped just being animals.
The moment we became something more. Before Adam, in this view, we were just biological entities. We ate, we slept, we reproduced. But we weren't human in the full Quranic sense because we weren't social. We hadn't developed tamadun.
So the Adam stage is when we effectively woke up socially.
Yes. It is the dawn of self-consciousness and social consciousness all wrapped into one concept.
Now, that sounds great as a theory, but I have to play the skeptic here for a minute.
Please.
Is this just clever linguistic gymnastics? Because the Quran also describes the creation of man from clay, from dust, from water. That sounds very, well, it sounds very Potter molding a statue, not millions of years of evolution.
That is the common objection, and it's a fair one. But this is where Parwez gets really granular with the text. He argues that if you look at the specific sequence of verses describing creation, you see a clear evolutionary timeline. It's not an instantaneous event.
Okay, walk us through that timeline. What does the source say happened first? Where does it begin?
It starts with the inorganic. The text uses the word turab, which means dust or dead earth, just raw, inorganic matter.
Okay, simple enough.
Then it describes the mixing of this dust with water, with maha.
The primordial soup.
Essentially, yes. The text uses the word tin, which is wet clay or mud. So this represents the transition from dry inorganic matter to a mixture where chemical reactions can start to take place.
The crucible for life.
Exactly. But then the text gets even more specific. It uses a term tin in lazib. This translates to sticky clay or adhesive mud.
Adhesive? Why adhesive?
Parwez interprets this as the formation of complex proteins, the building blocks of life that cling together. It's the move from simple chemistry to complex organocompounds, the very beginning of biology.
Wow, okay, so we go from dust to mud to these sticky organic compounds.
And then there's another stage mentioned, sasal. This is often translated as sounding clay or dried clay. Parwez links this to the cell structure, something with a shell, something that has a defined form that can hold itself together.
So we've literally gone from dust to mud to protein chains to a cell. That is remarkably close to the modern scientific understanding.
It's very close. And from that life germ, what the Quran calls the su'ala, or extract of life, the source then describes the splitting of sexes.
Now, this is the part that surprised me. Usually you think of Adam being created first, all alone, and then Eve is made later to keep him company. But the source here claims the biological process involved a split.
Yes. The text says that from that single life source, that nafse wahida, the mate, was created. Parwez interprets this biologically, not chronologically.
What does that mean, biologically?
It means the initial life forms were asexual or single-celled, and then evolution diverged into male and female properties. The male and female distinction is a biological stage in the development of the species, not a chronological story of one person being made from another person.
Which brings us to the elephant in the room, or I guess the bone in the room. The rib.
The rib, of course.
If you ask anyone on the street how Eve was created, 9 out of 10, maybe 10 out of 10 will say from Adam's rib. It is iconic.
It is.
But I'm looking at Parwez's text here, and he doesn't just disagree with it. He seems to be genuinely offended by it.
He is. He is offended by it. He calls it a man-made story. He is very explicit that this narrative does not exist in the Quran at all.
Not a single verse.
Not one. He argues it was borrowed from the Torah and Jewish folklore and then superimposed onto Islamic tradition by later commentators, centuries after the fact.
But why? I mean, why would commentators adopt a story that isn't in their own book? What's the motivation?
Parwez argues it was about sociology and power. The rib story serves a very specific and very powerful function. It establishes hierarchy.
How so?
If the woman is created from the man, she is, by definition, secondary. She is a byproduct. She is, in some interpretations, created for the man to cure his loneliness. Parwez argues this myth was maintained, consciously or not, to uphold male superiority in deeply patriarchal societies.
So he is engaging in a what, a feminist reading of the text,
Oh,
essentially.
rationalist egalitarian reading, yes. He argues that the Quranic narrative is one of absolute biological equality. Men and women are created from the same soul, the same species, the same evolutionary process. There is no original and a copy. There is just Adam, the species, which is comprised of both male and female equally.
That drastically changes the fall narrative too, doesn't it?
Completely.
Because in the Rib version, usually it's Eve who gets tempted first. She's the weak one, and then she drags poor old Adam down with her.
Exactly. The woman becomes the scapegoat for humanity's problems. And Parwez points out that in the Quranic text itself, the command is given to both of them. The warning is to both of them. And when they slip, both of them slip together. There is no scapegoating of the woman in the Quranic text. That is another element of the mythology he is trying to strip away.
Okay, so we've established that Adam is the human species, evolved from the earth, male and female, created as equals. But there's another term that pops up right in the intro to this story that causes a lot of confusion.
Khalifa.
Khalifa, yes. This is one of the most loaded words in Islamic theology and political history, a very heavy word.
Usually I hear it translated as vice-current or deputy, as in humans are God's deputies on earth. It sounds like a pretty big promotion. We are the managers of the planet.
That is the comfortable, traditional interpretation. It makes us feel important. But Parwez, being the rigorous logician he is, stops the buts right there. He asks a fundamental theological question: does God need a deputy?
Well, usually you hire a deputy if you are too busy, or if you're going on vacation, or if you can't be in two places at once, you delegate.
Exactly. A deputy acts on behalf of a principal who is absent or limited in some way. But the Quranic concept of God is that he is El-Muhit. He encompasses all things. He is omnipresent. He is omnipotent. He acts directly through his law.
So there's no absence to fill. There's no absence. Parwez argues that the moment you say God needs a deputy, you are actually committing shirk. You are associating partners with God's authority. You are implying God has a limit, which is the one thing the theology says is impossible.
That is a very strong, very logical argument. If God is all-powerful, he doesn't need a middleman.
Correct.
So if Khalifa doesn't mean deputy, what is the alternative? What does the word actually mean?
He goes back to the root definition. Khalifa comes from the root KHLF, which simply means to come after or to succeed. Like a caliph succeeds the previous ruler, a khalifa is simply a successor.
A successor.
One who takes the place of another who has passed away or been removed.
Okay, successor makes linguistic sense.
Right.
But, and this is the missing link moment for me, if humans are successors, who are we succeeding? Who was here before us?
Now we are entering the territory of what you might call Quranic anthropology. The sources imply that humans, Adam, are the successors to a previous species that inhabited the earth.
A pre-Adamite species.
Oh.
Wow.
Yes. And the text refers to these predecessors metaphorically as the jinn.
Whoa, hold on. Jinn? I thought jinn were, supernatural spirits. Jinnies. Beings made of smokeless fire. Ghost stories.
That's the mythological interpretation again?
You're saying they were?
Well,
Neanderthals? Some other hominid?
in Parwez's framework, yes, or at least a precursor species. Parwez takes the description of jinn being created from fire, nar, and interprets it metaphorically, not literally.
Metaphorically how?
In Arabic poetry and idiom, fire is often associated with volatility, with intense emotion, with impulsiveness and instability.
Like having a fiery temper.
Exactly. So when the text says the jinn were made of fire, Parwez argues it means they were a species defined by their emotional volatility and their raw instinctual drive. They were impulsive, they were wild, and crucially, they lacked the one thing that Adam has.
Which is?
Conceptual knowledge, the ilm. The source says the jinn had instinct, they could react, but they didn't have ilm, the ability to name things, to understand abstract concepts, to plan for the future.
So picture a species of hominids. Maybe it's Neanderthals, maybe it's Homo erectus, who are strong, they can hunt, they probably have literal fire, but they are emotionally reactive. They can't build a complex society because they keep fighting each other, or they can't plan for a harsh winter.
And because they couldn't plan, because they couldn't conceptualize and adapt, they couldn't survive major changes. The source suggests that the jinn went extinct or were superseded because they failed the evolutionary test.
They couldn't adapt.
They had fire, which is emotion and raw power, but they lacked light, which is intellect and reason.
And Adam, the latest Homo sapiens, we survived because we had the upgrade. We got the new software.
We had the capacity for ilm. We could look at a river and not just see water, but see the concept of irrigation.
Mm.
We could look at a stone and not just see a rock, but see a tool. That conceptual leap is what allowed us to become the Khalifa, the successor to the jinn.
That paints a really vivid picture. It's almost like a passing of the torch in the evolutionary relay race, but the previous runner dropped it.
Or burned out.
Right, so Adam is the species that conquers through knowledge. But this brings us to the next major character in the story, the angels, or Malaika.
Yes.
In the traditional story, God teaches Adam all the names, shows he's smarter than the angels, and then tells the angels to bow down to Adam. And they all do, all except one.
Correct. That's the scene.
But if we are stripping away the mythology, what are angels? Are we getting rid of the wings and the halos here?
We are definitely getting rid of the wings. Parwas translates Malaika, angels, not as beings, but as forces.
Forces. Like
Right.
the force from Star Wars, or forces of physics.
The forces of physics, the root of Malaika is connected to Mulk, which means power, ownership, or control. In this rationalist reading, angels are the fundamental forces that govern the universe.
Can you break that down for us? What kind of forces are we talking about?
Parwas categorizes them into two main groups. First, you have the external angels. These are the forces of nature that we study in science class. Gravity, electromagnetism, thermodynamics, chemical bonding, photosynthesis, all of the laws and processes that keep the universe running, they are the workers of the cosmos.
Okay, the forces outside of us. And the second group.
The internal angels. These are the psychological forces within the human being. Your intellect, your memory, your willpower, your subconscious faculties that keep your heart beating and your lungs breathing.
And the defining characteristic of an angel, in all theology, is that they have no free will. They always obey God's command without question.
And doesn't that fit perfectly with physics? Gravity doesn't decide to take a day off.
No, it's pretty reliable.
It obeys the law blindly and consistently. It is absolutely submissive to the natural law. That, in this framework, is its worship. Your subconscious doesn't ask permission to digest your food. It just does it. It follows its programming.
Okay, so with that lens, let's look at the prostration scene again. God teaches Adam the names, which we've established as knowledge, and then commands the angels, the forces, to bow.
This is one of my favorite insights from Parwes. It's so elegant. He argues that sajda, or prostration here, isn't a ceremonial bow of respect. It represents subjugation and conquest.
Subjugation, that's a strong word.
Think about it. When humanity, Adam, acquires knowledge, ilm, when we understand the laws of aerodynamics, what happens to the angel of gravity?
We overcome it. We build an airplane and we fly.
Exactly. Gravity bows to us. It is forced to serve our purpose. When we understand the angel of electromagnetism, what happens?
We build power grids. We light up the night. We send messages across the planet.
The force becomes our servant. We command it.
So the angels bowing to Adam isn't a one-time event that happened in a mythical garden.
Not at all.
It is a continuous, ongoing process of scientific discovery and technological invention. Every time a scientist cures a disease, an angel is bowing. Every time an engineer builds a bridge that defies gravity, an angel is bowing.
Precisely. Parwes is arguing that scientific progress isn't a secular or anti-religious act. It is the fulfillment of the Quranic mandate. The very definition of being Adam is the ability to make the forces of nature bow through the power of knowledge. If you aren't doing science, you aren't fulfilling your potential as Adam.
That is such a radical shift from the science versus religion debate. It makes science a religious duty.
It's the highest form of it in this view.
But there is always a but. There's one character in this drama who refuses to bow.
Iblis.
The adversary, the one who says no.
Now, if angels are forces of physics and Adam is the human species, who is Iblis?
Yeah.
Is he a red guy with a pitchfork? Is he a literal spirit whispering in our ear?
In Parwes's framework, if angels are forces that must obey, Iblis represents the capacity to rebel.
Or a capacity.
Yes. Iblis is not an external monster you fight. Iblis is an internal mechanism.
Is inside us, like the internal angels.
Yeah.
It is the human capacity for the misuse of free will. Look, a rock can't choose to disobey gravity. A tiger can't choose to be a vegetarian. They follow instinct and they follow natural law. But humans, we have ikhtiar, choice.
We can say no.
We can choose to act against our own best interests. We can choose to act against the collective good. That capacity to say no to the law, to the system, is Iblis.
But why call it Iblis? Does the name have a specific meaning like the others do?
It does, and the etymology here is quite profound and maybe a little sad. Iblis comes from the root iblis, and iblis means despair, grief, or frustration born of hopelessness.
Despair. That's not what you'd expect. We usually think of the devil as proud or arrogant or hateful.
He is arrogant, but the result of that arrogance is despair. Parwes maps out a psychological cycle here, a chain reaction.
Okay, what is it?
It starts with rebellion. You use your free will to violate a natural or a moral law. Maybe you act on pure selfishness. Maybe you hoard resources or exploit others for personal gain.
Okay, step one, break the rules.
Step one. But because the universe is built on law, on cause and effect, your violation creates friction. You are trying to swim upstream against the flow of reality. This friction leads to frustration. You aren't getting the peace or the lasting happiness you thought you would.
The thing you wanted isn't satisfying you.
Exactly. And if you keep doing it, if you double down on the violation, that frustration calcifies into despair, iblis. You become hopeless. You become destructive. You become iblis.
So Iblis isn't just a tempter. Iblis is a state of being. It's a state of existential brokenness that occurs when you try to live against the grain of the universe.
That's the perfect way to put it.
This leads us to one of the most provocative and frankly controversial examples in the source material. Parwes talks about what he calls the welfare state paradox,
Yes.
and he specifically points to modern nations like Sweden and Norway.
Right. Now, we have to contextualize this. Parwes was writing in the mid-20th century, and he was looking at the rise of these very successful, very secular Western welfare states. He sees these nations and he admits something crucial. They have succeeded in being Adam.
In what sense? How are they Adam?
They have mastered the external angels, they have the technology, the medicine, the heated homes, the food security, the efficient infrastructure. They have conquered the physical challenges of existence.
So they have the garden, materially speaking.
They have the material garden, they've known the forces of nature bow. But then Parwes notes, and this is a subject of much sociological debate, but we have to stick with his argument, that these societies often struggle with high rates of suicide or existential depression or what some call diseases of despair.
The Iblis. The despair.
Exactly. He poses the question, why would someone who has mastered all the external angels of comfort and science still suffer from the despair of Iblis?
And his answer.
His answer is that they have failed to master the internal iblis. They have power, but they lack what he calls divine values. They have built a perfect system for the body, but not for the self. When you have material comfort but no higher purpose, no connection to a universal moral law that serves all of humanity, you end up in a state of iblis.
It's the rich kid syndrome on a national scale. You have everything you could possibly want, but you feel empty.
Power without values leads to self-destruction. That is the formula he lays out. If you let the internal iblis, which is just selfishness, individualism, lack of purpose run the show, all the technology in the world won't save you from despair.
This bridges us perfectly into the political side of his whole theory. Because Parwes isn't just diagnosing a psychological problem. He's proposing a systemic solution.
Yes.
And the solution isn't just pray more or be a good person. It's build a better system.
Right. We are pivoting now from psychology to sociology. This is where Parwes redefines what religion is. He argues that Islam was never meant to be a private religion in the Western sense, just a set of rituals you do in your bedroom or in a specific building once a week.
He calls it a deen.
Exactly. A deen, which he translates as a socio-political system of governance, a way of life, from top to bottom.
Let's look at the terms he redefines to make this point.
Yeah.
First up, iman, or faith.
This is a big one. Usually iman is translated as belief, and in modern English, belief often implies believing something without proof. Blind faith.
Yeah, take a leap of faith.
I just believe it in my heart. Parwes rejects that vehemently.
What's his alternative?
He defines iman as rational conviction. He says iman is the end result of aql, intellect, and fikr, reflection. You observe the universe, you look at the evidence, you reason through the logic of the system, and you arrive at a conviction that is so strong it becomes a fact for you.
So you don't start with faith, you reason your way to it. You end with conviction.
Exactly. It is a conclusion, not a starting assumption. It has to be earned through thought. And then he applies the same logical rigor to the concept of salah.
Salah. Okay, this is the daily prayers. The bowing and prostrating we see Muslims do 5 times a day.
But look at the Quranic phrase that's always used, akimu al-salah. It doesn't say read the salah or do the salah. The verb is akimu, establish the salah.
Like you establish a business or establish a law. It's a foundational word.
Yes. Parwes argues that you cannot establish a ritual. That doesn't make sense. You perform a ritual. You establish a system. He interprets Salah as the establishment of a specific socio-political order,
So what kind of order?
an order that ensures the free distribution of resources, that
Yeah.
cares for the needy, that protects the weak. The physical prayer, in his view, is just the training, the daily reminder for the citizens of that state to stay aligned with the principles of the system.
So Salah isn't just the act of praying. It's the government structure itself.
It is the social contract. And he backs this up with another concept, tamkin, which means political authority. He says you cannot establish Salah, you can't build this just society if you don't have political power.
I see.
You can pray in a cave by yourself, but you can't establish a just society from a cave. Therefore, the command to establish Salah is actually a command to gain political authority and build a state.
It turns the mosque into a parliament.
It turns the scripture into a constitution designed to balance the external angels, which are the resources and technology, with divine values, which are justice and universal equity.
There is one more term that really stuck out to me because it usually sounds so mystical. Al-Hub, the unseen.
Yes, the command is to have belief in the unseen.
And usually that sounds like believing in fairies or ghosts or just the idea that God is invisible and you just have to accept it.
It's supernatural, yeah. But in a rationalist legal system, what is the unseen? Parwes uses a beautiful agricultural analogy. Think of a farmer. The farmer plows the land, he sows the seed, he waters it, he works hard following the laws of agriculture. But he cannot see the harvest. The harvest is months away. It is gabe unseen.
That he knows it's coming. He trusts it's coming.
He knows it is coming because he trusts the law of nature. He has rational conviction that if he follows the process, the cause, the result, the effect will inevitably happen. Parwes argues that belief in the unseen means understanding the law of cause and effect so deeply that you trust the future consequences of your present actions, even though you can't see them yet.
So it's not magic. It's consequentialism. It's knowing that if I build a just society today, the result will be peace and prosperity tomorrow, even if I can't see that peace right now.
Exactly. It moves the unseen from the realm of ghosts to the realm of scientifically predictable consequences. It's faith in the system, because you've rationally concluded the system works.
So let's try to bring all these threads together. We have Adam, the scientific species. We have angels, the forces we are meant to master. We have Iblis, the internal despair we have to fight. And we have Salah, the socio-political system we are supposed to build.
That's a good summary.
What is the ultimate goal? The source makes a clear distinction between being Adam and being a moment. What's the difference?
This is the synthesis. This is where the rubber meets the road in his whole philosophy.
Stage one is Adam.
Stage one is the acquisition of knowledge. It is science. It is the mastery of the external angels. We learn to split the atom. We learn to edit genes. We learn to build skyscrapers that touch the clouds. This makes us Adam. And this is good. It is necessary. He argues you cannot be a true believer if you are weak and ignorant.
But it's not enough. Being Adam isn't the finish line.
It is critically insufficient. Because if you stop at Adam, you have power, but you have no control over the internal Iblis. You have nuclear weapons, which are mastered angels, but you are driven by nationalistic greed, which is Iblis. What happens?
You blow up the world. You end in Iblis, in despair and destruction.
Exactly. So you need stage two, the moment, the believer.
And the moment is the one who adds the values to the power.
Parwes uses the metaphor of the horse and the rider. The horse is science, it's technology, it's power. The mastered angels, it is strong, it is fast, it is essential. But the rider is divine guidance, the revelation, the values.
And without the horse, the rider is just slow. He's not going anywhere.
Right, that's monasticism, mysticism. If you just have values but no power, you might be harmless, but you are also useless in the real world. You can't feed the poor, you can't protect the weak. You are a rider walking on foot, you fail to even be Adam.
But without the rider.
The horse runs wild, it tramples everything. Power without direction destroys the village. The moment is the one who holds the reins. He or she uses the immense power of the angels, but directs it according to the universal laws of justice, equity, and sustenance for all.
So it's an equation. Power plus values equals peace.
And power minus values equals destruction. That, he says, is the central warning of the 20th and 21st centuries. We have godlike power, but our values haven't kept up.
It really shifts the responsibility, doesn't it? In the old mythological story, we are sort of passive victims of a cosmic drama. Eve ate the apple, the devil tricked us, now we are fallen, and we just have to wait for God to save us.
But in this deep dive, in this interpretation, you are the operator. The angels are waiting for your command. They want to bow to you, but you have to learn the science to make them bow.
And Iblis is waiting to sabotage you, but you have to build the inner strength and the outer system to suppress him.
The system is waiting to be established, but you have to gain the political will to build it. It's all on us.
The fall isn't something that happened once in a garden thousands of years ago. It's what happens every morning when we choose selfishness over principle, or short-term gain over long-term stability.
It is the constant struggle between the internal angels of reason and willpower and the internal iblis of despair and greed.
I want to end with a thought that has been nagging me since we talked about the jinn, the missing link.
Go on.
We said the jinn, the precursor species, went extinct because they were volatile, they had fire but no light, they couldn't adapt to changing conditions. And so nature, or God, in this framework, replaced them with Adam, with us.
Correct. We became the successor.
So here's the uncomfortable question. Are we the final draft? Is this it for evolution?
The sources suggest, not necessarily, the potential is there for us to fail too.
That is a terrifying thought.
It should be a sobering one. The title of Khalifa successor isn't a permanent tenure, it's a job description with performance reviews. And if you look at humanity today, we have mastered the external angels in ways Parwez couldn't even dream of. We have AI. We have fusion on the horizon. We have bioweapons. We are very, very powerful atoms.
But are we mastering the internal iblis? Or are we acting more like the jinn? Are we becoming more volatile, more fiery, more emotional, and more tribal and reactive?
That is the evolutionary filter we are passing through right now as a species. If we use our immense power to destroy our environment and destroy ourselves, we prove that we lacked the values necessary to manage the power. We prove that we were just high-tech jinn all along.
And if we are just high-tech jinn,
then nature will do what nature always does. It will select for extinction, and it will wait for a successor who can balance the equation.
well, on that cheerful note, I think I need to go for a long walk and think about my internal angels for a bit.
It's a good day for it, a lot to process.
Thank you for diving deep with us. This has been
Yeah.
heavy, but absolutely necessary.
Always a pleasure.
To our listeners, keep holding those reins. We'll see you next time.